The pair made an appearance at a rally tonight in the battleground state of Pennsylvania, where the outcome could decide the winner in November.
Since the day that I announced my candidacy, I set out to find a partner who can help build this brighter future. So Pennsylvania, I'm here today because I found such a leader.
I couldn't be prouder to be on this ticket and to help Vice President Harris become what we all know is very, very good for us to think about. Next President of the United States of America.
Skylar Henry has a closer look at why Walz ended up as the pick and how Republicans are already bashing his selection.
Hey, Ryan, good to be with you. Yeah, it was a fiery rally down in South Philadelphia today as the world was introduced to the Minnesota governor. In his speech, a few jabs at the Republican ticket, while also mentioning that he is willing to debate Senator J.D. Vance should he also agree to debate at some point in the next few weeks. But one thing's for certain, these two will be hitting the ground aggressively, making their stops in several battleground states, trying to sway voters that will be crucial to win the White House. Vice President Kamala Harris and her running mate, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, made their first campaign stop together in Philadelphia.
We are the underdogs in this race, but we have the momentum, and I know exactly what we are up against.
You know it, you feel it. These guys are creepy, and yes, just weird as hell. That's what you see. That's what you see.
Hi, this is Tim.
It's Kamala Harris. Good morning, Governor.
The vice president's campaign released a video purportedly showing her call with Walz, asking him to be her running mate hours earlier.
I would be honored, Madam Vice President.
The joy that you're bringing back to the country, the enthusiasm that's out there, it'll be a privilege to take this with you across the country.
The two traveled to Philadelphia ahead of their first campaign rally together.
Why pick Tim Walz?
A source close to Harris says she picked Walz because of his record as governor and in Congress. The Army National Guard veteran worked as a high school teacher before his political career. Harris is counting on Walz to take the fight to the Trump campaign. He was the first to call former President Trump and running mate J.D. Vance weird.
Well, we're not afraid of weird people. We're a little bit creeped out, but we're not afraid.
While the Harris campaign is looking for Walz to broaden the ticket's appeal to moderates and independents, Vance responded for the Trump campaign, painting Harris and Walz as too liberal.
Tim Walz's record is a joke. He's been one of the most far-left radicals in the entire United States government at any level.
Vance was also campaigning in Philadelphia Tuesday ahead of the Harris rally with Walz.
We know that there are 6 or 7 states that are going to decide this election, so I'm going to go to every single battleground state that I can.
Harris and Walz plan to campaign in 6 other battleground states following tonight's rally in Pennsylvania. The Harris-Walz team announced today that just this morning, has raised more than $20 million in grassroots fundraising. One thing for certain, they have their work cut out for them. It's just 91 days to go until Election Day. They are expected to hit several battleground states this week and continue to hit them in the weeks to come. We're here at the White House. I'm Skylar Henry. Ryan, back to you.
And if you don't follow politics closely, you may not be too familiar with the Minnesota governor. We spoke to Bay Area voters about their thoughts on the selection and what they're hoping to see and hear from Walz.
I think he's a good choice because he presents a moderate voice in the ticket, and I think that's really necessary.
I really don't have a strong opinion. He seems like a pretty good guy, though. Not weird.
Right now, I think he's a good choice. You know, I was sort of thinking Shapiro.
And why?
I mean, this surprised me. Pennsylvania. You know, but I knew there were some issues right now, you know, with the politics in Israel and everything, so.
I knew that she was going to pick someone who was like a little bit less progressive to help even out her ballot, so I'm not really surprised. From what I've seen, he looks okay, yeah. And anyone's better than Trump, so.
And joining us now with his reaction, Professor David McEwen for Sonoma State University. We spoke to you over the weekend. We asked you to look into your crystal ball, and you actually predicted that Walz would be that pick. So what do you think were those deciding factors?
You know, Walz brings something to the ticket that's a secret weapon. He brings something that's beyond the experience, beyond kind of his role as in the National Guard as a senior non-commissioned officer. He brings that secret weapon that is someone who's been a teacher like myself or a coach, an optimism. The opponent ticket is about pessimism. It's about America's best days behind it. It's about an administration that can't work. It's about an America that can't work. That is not Tim Walz. This is a guy who's taught people, who's been a coach, and has done that for a long time. He's optimistic about the human condition. He gets a reward from that. And that's a big contrast to the other side. It's forward looking, it's perspective. And Ryan, when you do that, it's also hard to counter that. Yes, they're going to hit on crime. Yes, they're going to hit on the riots of what happened in the wake of the tragic killing of George Floyd. Yes, they're going to talk about immigration. But Walz is also kind and not going to take that. He's willing to punch back. So he's willing to be a little bit more than a traditional attack dog that is a vice presidential candidate. He's willing to provide an America that's optimistic and have that view going forward. And that's really going to energize voters. That helps them maintain some of the momentum of the honeymoon that they've had the last 2 weeks as well.
You kind of talk about being a watchdog. So how do you think the Harris campaign will try to utilize Walz in the coming months? And do you see any vulnerabilities?
There are some vulnerabilities. There are vulnerabilities on, for example, the crime issue, on immigration, on being painted already. We see this as a San Francisco West Coast liberal. We're going to hear that a lot. But Walz does something that most politicians don't do, and certainly that Donald Trump and J.D. Vance don't do as well. And that is when he makes a mistake, he says, we didn't play that right. We didn't do that right. We made a mistake. We didn't call in the National Guard soon enough. We didn't respond and take into account what was going on, and that racial issues are hugely important in this country. So he does make a mistake. He doesn't double down on when he misplays or has a miscue. In addition, what he will do is he won't just park himself in those key battleground states of Minnesota East, if you will, moving to Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. They also have to go to Georgia. They also have to go to Arizona and Nevada, but they have to get out the base as well. And that's where Walz can also be helpful in getting out the base, because unions like him. There are a lot of former members of Congress that like him. They were lobbying privately behind the scenes with Nancy Pelosi in the know as to what they were doing to get him on the ticket. So there's a lot that he can do beneath the surface with the Democratic base, because Democrats to win this election are going to need a base plus election. They're going to have to convert some of those swing voters, Ryan. And in doing that, they have to show they're not weird. They've already got that word as the word of the year. So they're going to keep moving forward on that. That gives them some momentum, even coming out of the Democratic convention in Chicago, while Donald Trump and J.D. Vance try to get back onto the airwaves and get in front of the news cycle that they seem to have lost.
Yeah, well, definitely they have the momentum right now, but we're now exactly 3 months away from Election Day. What can we look out for now, between now and then, that actually might tip the balance in the race for the White House?
So what we should see is coming out of the convention a little bit of a bump for Harris. We've seen this so far, a couple of points in national polling and head-to-head with Trump. It's not big enough in the swing states of likely voters to say that she's in the lead. The race has fundamentally changed. She's closed the gap with some of the groups that Donald Trump was overperforming with from his 2020 results, and that Joe Biden was underperforming with. Nonetheless, what we should see is a turn to some of those issues around working class, around future, around hope, around an optimism, as opposed to a pessimism, and making that strong contrast. In addition, on issues where they have problems like immigration and crime, they're going to talk about those issues and not avoid them, which makes at least one vice presidential debate likely, possibly 2 presidential debates. And those will be must-watch TV, because voters, particularly swing voters, the 5 people that are left that haven't decided what they're going to do this particular election, it will be hugely important for them beyond just those swing states into particular counties, about 15 to 20 counties that determine who becomes the president of the United States.
Okay, Professor Dave McEwen, you were right this week, and we will ask for more predictions in the coming months. Thanks for joining us.
Nice to see you, man.